Hey, good morning. This is mini class number 4. We're going to talk about a question that I get: which stock should I buy? Now, if you've been following the other mini lessons, you already have your brokerage opened. You have funded your brokerage with an amount of money that you're comfortable with, and you may have already purchased one stock. That's perfect. That is awesome. You're in a great place. If you did purchase a stock and you thought, oh man, I don't know if I like that stock, well, you know what? You can always sell it. It's not a permanent thing. So let's talk about the question of which stocks should I buy? You need to answer that question for yourself, but before you do, you need to know, why are you buying a stock? Are you buying a stock because you think that it's going to go up? That's called a speculation. You are assuming that it's going to go up and that it's going to beat inflation. All right, so if you're speculating, then that will determine what sort of stocks you're going to buy. There's also other ways to speculate. Now, if you are buying a stock because you know it's going to hold its value and you want growth, that's a big part of what typical fiduciaries will tell you to do. Buy growth stocks. If you're heading towards retirements, you want to look at bonds, but the 2008 bond market crashed, and that really sucked for people who followed that advice in retirement. Now, I am not a fiduciary. I am not a licensed financial manager. I'm a financial coach. And I get you to start asking questions of yourself to determine what is best for you. No other person is going to know everything in your heart and mind and finances except for you and what you're comfortable with. So once you understand that and understand what questions to ask yourself, then you will be able to determine what stocks will fit your timeline and your particular goals. So for me, I really love the idea of cash flow assets. I want to buy something that's going to pay me to hold it. Now, many people are familiar with real estate, and we see all these shows on TV: buy a house, fix it up, rent it, get your renters to pay the mortgage, and you're going to have a cash flow. That's true. But if you've actually ever been involved in real estate, you know that's a lot of work. You're still working for your money. I would rather have my money work for me instead of me working for it. And that's the goal. So if you have a job, if you are flipping real estate or having rentals, you're still working for your money, but you are having a cash flow. That's a good thing. That's where everybody starts. Now, even if you got a manager to manage your rentals, you still need to manage the manager. So still a little work involved. But how about if you bought a stock and you thought of it like a house and it was going to pay you no matter what? No matter if the market went up or if the market went down, it's still paying you. So what I'm going to talk about is those types of stocks that give you cash flow. And you don't have to fix a leaky faucet or put on a new roof. So the very first type of stock that will give you a cash flow is called a blue chip stock. If you're watching this, take some notes. I want you to do an internet search and look for dividend aristocrats, dividend kings, dividend champions. Okay, look up those terms and you will find a whole list of stocks that have consistently paid dividends for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 50 years. And many of them not only consistently paid dividends, but raised their dividends every single year. So if a company has been doing that for 50 years, kind of feel pretty confident in that company, right? Now, the thing is, those blue chip stocks typically pay a very low dividend, but you have stability. They might pay 2%, 3%, sometimes even 4% annual return. So that's one type of stock that you might want to look at. Now, I don't believe you should put all your eggs in one basket. So you probably want a combination of different types of stocks. So maybe today, if you're brand new, if you've bought your first stock or you're getting ready to, do that internet search. And when you find a company that you're familiar with, then that might be what you want to look at to invest. Don't randomly invest in something because somebody tells you what to do. So look that up. And once you look up a few stocks, and you might find some things like Exxon. Everybody goes to the gas station, right? And even if you don't go to the gas station, wherever you get your transportation from, they go to the gas station. I don't think gas stations are going to go out of business. So maybe I want to look at Exxon or Chevron or Valero or those type of stocks. I might want to look at that if I believe that gas companies aren't going to go out of business. And if they're one of those dividend kings, dividend achievers, dividend champions, I might want to do that. I might feel comfortable with that. Now, if you want to know what they're actually paying, here's another thing to write down. Seekingalpha.com. That is a site that you can use to see what's the dividend history. How much are they paying? So that way, you know, am I going to buy a company that is paying a 3% dividend, or maybe I want to buy the company that's paying a 4% dividend? All right, so that is one type of stock, and you don't need to just do it in the oil industry. Maybe you like to drink Coca-Cola. Maybe you like to drink Pepsi. You can buy that particular stock as well, and you can look and compare those dividends. So that's another thing. What other sectors? There's the health sector, there's the tech sector. Whatever you're familiar with, you might want to look for those blue chip companies in that arena. All right, you want to look for something you're familiar with. So we got that type of stock, and you know they're not going to go out of business. The second type is a more moderate stock that may pay a dividend of 5% to 8% to 12% to 15%, and we think, wow, that's a lot. That sounds like those stocks are paying me a lot more to hold them. So those type of stocks, you can look into what's called exchange traded funds or closed-end funds, or something called REITs, R-E-I-T, R-E-I-T. It stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. And that's a way to invest in real estate, and again, not worry about renters or hiring a management company or fixing a broken toilet. Those type of stocks pay really good dividend. They're a little more volatile. They're not quite as stable. So if you buy those type of stocks, and again, do your internet search. You can type what is a REIT, what are some good REITs, and what are some good dividend paying stocks. Again, that's the middle ground. But you have to be comfortable with some big price fluctuations. Not stable, but still some of these companies have been around for a really long time. And probably people are still going to need property. I don't think the real estate industry is going to disappear. So that might be a good stock. There are different types of REITs that manage residential mortgages, commercial mortgages, mortgages with tech companies. I mean, there's certainly a variety. And the final type of stock that I like for cash flow is highly speculative, very volatile, could disappear overnight. These are things that might pay a 50% dividend, 100% dividend, 125% dividend. That's crazy. There's a lot of risk, a lot of volatility. But if you have, let's say, $1,000 to invest, you're going to choose how much of that $1,000 do I want to put in those blue chip stocks. They're still going to pay me, not as much, but I'm going to feel comfortable. How much am I going to put in the middle of the road stocks that pay a greater dividend, but more volatility? And then how much do I want to put in something that could blow up huge or could disappear overnight? Maybe you do not like a lot of risk. Maybe you're somebody that likes stability. Maybe you only want to put 1% of your money in that, or 2%. Maybe you're somebody that is very young and has a lot of time where you're not afraid if something goes up high or something falls. You have a lot of time to recover. Maybe you want to put 10%, 15% in those types of stocks. So I'm going to give you some examples of each one. And actually, I'm going to look it up real quick. And while I'm looking it up, write down those 3 types of cash flow stocks. And let me look this up while I am here. And while I'm looking this up, I want to let you know about the dividend yield and what that means, because that will change slightly. Logging in. So the dividend yield, at first, when I started, I thought it was just a percentage, like if you bought a CD or if you had a money market or if you had a checking account that paid you interest. I thought, oh, well, it pays 4% or it pays 7%. But in reality, every share of stock is tied to a dollar amount. So let's say you're looking at a company that costs $100 a share. If it pays $10 every year, that's a 10% return. Now, what if that stock went up to $200 per share in the market because it was really volatile? Well, now you bought the stock for $100. It's paying you $10 a year on that stock. Now the price went up to $200. Whoever buys a share of that particular stock is going to get the same $10 per share. But now their percentage rate has decreased. They're getting a 5% return on a share in that company because they bought it at a higher price. So that's just something to keep in mind. When you buy a stock, it will be tied to the share. It's a dollar amount tied to the share, but you can figure out if you buy some stocks low and some stocks high, it's going to average out. That's why we talked about dollar cost averaging. Don't worry about the ups and downs. Just be slow and steady and make a plan. Hey, every week I'm going to buy a stock, or every month I'm going to buy a couple of stocks. And you really will not need to worry about volatility. All right, final thing, because I am about ready to start a conference that I'm attending. So let's give examples of all of those stocks. Blue chip stocks, those stocks that we're familiar with, that have been around for years. Go over here. I'll give you just a few examples and I will tell you what their dividend yield is right now and how it fluctuates. So ExxonMobil company, I'm not recommending that you buy Exxon. Honestly, I like some of the other oil companies better, but right now, the market price is $108.31, and its dividend yield is 3.69. Not bad. I bought a few shares earlier in the week, and I bought some shares as low as $99.16. So I got it on sale. That means my dividend yield will be a little bit higher. Still a good buy, and if you are going to hold on to it for long-term growth, now is still a really good time to buy, because over the past year, Exxon used to be trading at $126.34 per share. So $108 right now is still a pretty good buy. So example of a blue chip stock is Exxon, that's XOM. Another example might be 3M. MMM is the ticker symbol. I use lots of tape and supplies for crafts when I was homeschooling, and I noticed it said 3M on a lot of the stuff. I'm familiar with the company. I know what it does. That stock right now is giving about a 2.15% return. And you know what? I don't know. I might sell it. I might get something better. I'm not sure. MetLife is another blue chip stock. It's an insurance company. They're giving a 3% return. Very stable, not a huge percentage point, but again, another blue chip stock. All right, let's talk about the REITs, the stocks that are going to give you a higher dividend yield. Okay, and again, you can look up REIT, R-E-I-T. There's one called Ellington Credit Company, and its ticker symbol is EARN. It's earn. Kind of cute because we want to earn. That stock is trading at $5.50. Even your children can get in on that. I mean, if they're doing chores and you've opened that account for your children, they can put $5 in, they can buy a stock, and that stock is paying 17.5% per year. That's the yield. Where are you going to get 17% per year in a real estate rental that you still have to spend lots of money on, or a money market, or a CD, or interest? I don't know, but right there for $5, your children can buy a stock of EARN, E-A-R-N, and make 17.5%. All right, so that's another example. Let's see here. There's all sorts of, there's something called JPC. That's giving 10% a year. So we have the middle of the road stocks. You're going to want to mix of those stocks. And the final one, because I got to run out here, is, again, I'm not recommending this particular stock. I'm not making any recommendations. I'm giving you ideas. But there is a stock. Actually, before I go to that, I'm going to give you another name. This is called BlackRock Capital, BCAT. BCAT. That is a stock. You may have heard of BlackRock. They've been in the news, buying up lots of property, making developments. Honestly, I really don't like them. I don't like what their company represents. I think they're a big company that doesn't take care of the environment or the little people, but they're paying about a 25% return a year. And to buy one share of their stock right now is less than 15 bucks. I mean, it's really hard to beat that. All right, now I'm going to go into the speculations. Be careful with the speculations. I'm going to give you, there's a stock called I think it's called BITO. And if you've ever heard of Bitcoin, but you don't want to invest in Bitcoin, you could get a tiny little stock and get some of the benefits of Bitcoin without actually holding on to it. Right now, a share of Bitcoin is less than $21. And I'm going to see if I can find the dividend. The dividend yield is 67%. And I think they pay every single month, so the compounding happens faster. Again, it's speculative, it's Bitcoin, but if you don't want to buy a Bitcoin and you just want to spend 21 bucks and see how that goes for you, it says the dividend growth has been about 200%. So that's crazy. That's a lot. But the higher dividend yield is the more risky yield, the more volatile. You might be uncomfortable if you put $100 into that stock and then the next day it's only worth 50 bucks. And you're like, shoot, I just spent $100 and now it's only worth 50, but it's still paying a dividend. And now it's on sale, and now you can get two for the price of one. So these are some things to think about. I hope that helps. Sunshine, so great to see you here. Trisha, so good to see you. And Sheila, just really appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know if you have more questions, and take a look. Take a chance. Buy a stock for $5. 15 to, I mean, what do you have to lose? Probably cheaper than a visit to McDonald's or Starbucks. You can buy something that's going to pay you back. So that's it. Stay well, and I look forward to our next mini class.